The shadow supply chain. How Mossad systematically paralyzed Iran's missile arsenal from within. June 2025. 12 days of intense military confrontation between Israel and Iran. The world watched missiles lighting up the night sky over Tel Aviv and Tehran. Fighter jets streaking across hostile airspace. Explosions that rattled windows hundreds of miles away. But here's what the world didn't see. Deep inside Iran, months before the first Israeli F-35 ever crossed into Iranian airspace, a different war was already being won. Not with bombs, not with drones launched from aircraft carriers, not with any weapon you could track on a radar screen, but with suitcases, with shipping containers, with trucks carrying vegetables that weren't carrying vegetables at all. This is the story of Mossad's stealth logistics, perhaps the most sophisticated covert operation in the history of modern intelligence. An operation that didn't just weaken Iran's military, an operation that hollowed it out from the inside. Before a single Israeli pilot ever had to worry about Iranian air defenses, those defenses had already been blinded. Before a single missile could be launched at Tel Aviv, dozens of those missiles had already been destroyed sitting on their launch trucks, never knowing what hit them. This isn't espionage fiction. This is what actually happened. And the man who orchestrated it, the head of Mossad, David Barnea, called it something that might sound like exaggeration, but according to every available source, it wasn't. He called it a historic achievement. Today, we're going to break down exactly how they did it. The smuggling networks, the front companies, the remote-controlled missiles hidden in plain sight, the agents who walk through Iranian airports with $100,000 in X-ray-proof bags, and most importantly, what this means for the war that's still raging today. I'm Alex, your host. This is Geopolitics and Markets, and this is the inside story of Mossad's shadow supply chain. Chapter 1. The logic of stealth. Why bombs aren't enough. Before we get into the operation itself, we need to understand a fundamental problem. Iran is huge. We're talking about 1.6 million square kilometers. Mountain ranges that would make the Himalayas nervous. Underground facilities are buried beneath hundreds of feet of solid rock. A military-industrial complex that has spent 40 years preparing for exactly this kind of war. You can't just bomb all of it. Even with the most advanced air force on the planet, you can't destroy every missile launcher, every radar installation, every production facility. And here's the real problem. By the time your bombs arrive, the missiles may already be gone. Iran can you tease? They build their entire military doctrine around dispersal and survival. Mobile launchers that could move at a moment's notice. Redundant command structures. Supply chains designed to keep operating even after massive conventional strikes. So Israel had to find another way. Not to destroy the missiles after they were launched, but to prevent them from ever being launched in the first place. This required something unprecedented. A covert logistics network inside Iran itself. An underground army of agents, smugglers, and operatives who could position weapons exactly where they needed to be months before the shooting started. As one Israeli official described it to Reuters, this was a strategic and heavy blow to the Islamic Republic and the IRGC Aerospace Force. But how do you build such a network in a country as paranoid as Iran? You start small, very small. Chapter 2. The suitcase strategy. Smuggling a war in baggage. Let me tell you about a man named Kurash Kivani. According to confessions published by Iran's Mizan news agency in March 20, to smuggle advanced technical equipment into Iran for the purpose of jamming Iranian missile systems during the June 2025 confrontation. The most remarkable part isn't what he smuggled, it's how he smuggled it. Kivani received $100,000 in funding from Mossad. But the money wasn't transferred electronically. It wasn't wired through shell companies or cryptocurrency. It was smuggled inside a specially designed travel bag. A bag lined with materials that made its contents invisible. To X-ray machines at Imam Khomeini International Airport, he walked right through security. Past the scanners, past the guards who were supposed to be looking for exactly this kind of threat, and nobody noticed a thing. This wasn't an isolated incident. According to the same source, Mossad recruited hundreds of agents who smuggled disassembled drones into Iran using trucks, shipping containers, and even personal luggage. Think about that for a moment. Hundreds of drones, dozens of components. All flows into Iran through legitimate commercial channels. And every single piece was assembled later inside Iran itself into weapons that would be used to blind Iranian air defenses when the time came. The Wall Street Journal, in a detailed investigation cited by multiple sources, confirmed this basic narrative. Israel spent months smuggling components for hundreds of explosive-laden quadcopter drones into Iran, using suitcases, commercial trucks, and shipping containers. This wasn't espionage in the James Bond sense. This was industrial-scale logistics. And it was happening right under the noses of Iranian intelligence. Chapter 3. The Front Companies. Building factories in enemy territory, but smuggling components was just the beginning, because once the parts arrived, they had to be assembled. And once they were assembled, they had to be stored somewhere, preferably somewhere close to their targets. So Mossad did something even bolder. They built factories inside Iran. Let me read you what Iranian investigators discovered, as reported by multiple Iranian news agencies. In Sharia, a city just southwest of Tehran, Iranian security forces found a 3-story building used as an Israeli drone factory. 3 stories. High in the suburbs of the capital. According to the report, Israeli agents had been using this building to assemble and store drones for attacks. When investigators searched the premises, they found drones, wings, control equipment, a 3D printer, everything needed to manufacture unmanned aerial vehicles on site. In Isfahan, the heart of Iran's nuclear program, police discovered another drone equipment manufacturing workshop. 4 suspects were arrested, and these weren't just small operations. According to an anonymous Israeli official cited by Chinese media, Mossad had been running these assembly and storage facilities for years. The official added something chilling. Even if these facilities were discovered, it didn't matter anymore, because they had already served their purpose. They were already no longer in use. The mission was complete, but the most audacious part of this operation wasn't the factories. It was the front companies. According to Israeli officials speaking to Reuters, Mossad used international front companies to covertly acquire key components, smuggle them into Iran, and maintain remote activation capabilities from nearly 2,000 kilometers away. We're talking about a supply chain that spanned continents, that involved unsuspecting business partners, that exploited every weakness in Iran's import inspection systems on its orchid. For months perhaps, US Mossad was effectively operating a parallel military-industrial complex. Inside Iran itself, Chapter 4, the weapons hidden in plain sight. So what exactly were they building with all these smuggled components? 2 categories of weapons stand out. First, the spike missiles. According to Iranian investigators, Mossad agents had deployed spike anti-tank missiles at multiple locations inside Iran. These aren't just any missiles. The spike in LOS non-line-of-sight variant can be fired from behind cover, operated remotely, and guided to their targets by operators who could be hundreds of kilometers away. The Iranian military discovered the remnants of these missiles after they had been used. Photographs published by Fars news agency showed the launch tubes, radio communication equipment, and electro-optical targeting systems left behind. What makes this particularly devastating? These missiles weren't launched from outside Iran. They were launched from within, positioned near Iranian military installations, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the signal. Second, the quadcopter drones. According to the Wall Street Journal's investigation, Mossad had smuggled components for hundreds of explosive-laden quadcopter drones into Iran. These are commercially available drones, the kind you can buy at any electronics store, but fitted with explosives. They become precision-guided munitions capable of taking out radar installations, missile launchers, and command vehicles. When the Israeli air campaign began, these drones were already in position. Their operators trained in 3rd countries by Mossad were already watching their targets, and when the order came, they struck simultaneously. One Israeli official described the operation to Reuters as reminiscent of Ukraine's drone operations against Russian air bases, but with a crucial difference. In Ukraine, the drones were launched from friendly territory. In Iran, they were launched from inside the country itself. Chapter 5. The Moment of Truth. How it all came together. Now let me walk you through what happened when the operation was finally activated. June 2025. The Israeli Air Force is preparing to launch a massive strike against Iranian nuclear and military targets. But before a single F-35 crosses the border, something else happens first. Phase 1. The jamming operation. According to the confessions of Qurashkivani, Mossad had positioned advanced jamming equipment near Iranian missile systems, using camping as a cover to avoid suspicion. Operatives deployed devices designed to disrupt Iranian radar and communications. The security protocols were extreme. Agents were banned from using mobile phones during equipment operation to prevent detection by Iranian counter-espionage devices. But it worked. Phase 2. The drone strikes. As the Israeli jets approached, Mossad's drone teams went to work. According to the Wall Street Journal, these teams neutralized dozens of missiles before they could be launched. The targets weren't the missiles themselves, at least not directly. The targets were the trucks transporting the missiles. Here's the genius of this approach. Iran had a critical logistical weakness. They had 4 times as many missiles as transport vehicles. If you destroy the trucks, the missiles can't get to their launch positions. They're stuck in storage. Useless. Mossad knew this, so they targeted the trucks. Dozens of missile transport vehicles were destroyed or disabled in the opening hours of the operation. Phase 3. The air campaign. With Iranian air defenses blinded and their missile transport network crippled, the Israeli Air Force had something unprecedented. Freedom of operation over Iranian airspace. IDF spokesperson Brig Gen Effie Defrin reported that 70 Israeli fighter jets operated for more than 2 hours within Iran's airspace, without encountering significant opposition. 2 hours. Over Tehran, with Iranian air defenses largely neutralized. This was the direct result of Mossad's shadow logistics. The war on the ground. The invisible war had already been won before the visible war even began. Chapter 6. The psychological weapon. Fear as a force multiplier. But there's another dimension to this operation that's often overlooked. The psychological dimension. According to reports from Israeli security sources cited by Taiwanese media, Mossad didn't just smuggle weapons. They also conducted an intimidation campaign against Iranian officials and military commanders. The tactic was simple but devastating. Operatives would call Iranian officials directly using fluent Persian and deliver messages like, "We can touch your jugular vein at any moment. Remember this. May God protect you." At least 20 senior Iranian officials received such calls. According to one Mossad operative quoted by the Washington Post, the campaign was so effective that it successfully turned an Iranian general into a collaborator. The operative described the exchange. "Do you want to be a target of assassination? Do you want to destroy your wife and children?" "No," the general's response. "Then what do you want me to do?" The operative instructed the general to record a video condemning the Iranian regime, which he did within 12 hours. The impact of this psychological warfare cannot be overstated. Seema Shine, a former senior Mossad intelligence officer, told the Wall Street Journal, "No one in Iran's senior leadership can be certain they are not known to Israeli intelligence and will not become a target. It's not merely the damage inflicted, but the psychological anxiety it generates when your leaders don't feel safe, when they're looking over their shoulders, wondering if the next phone call is a threat or a bomb paralysis sets in. Decisions slow down. Trust erodes. The entire system becomes dysfunctional. This is what Mossad achieved. Not just physical destruction, but psychological fragmentation. Chapter 7. What this means for the current war. So where does this leave us today? April 2026. Day 38 of the current war. Iran has launched hundreds of missiles at Israel. The US has conducted over 11,000 strikes. The conflict is far from over, but the lessons of Mossad's stealth logistics operation remain relevant. First, the operation demonstrated that Iran's security apparatus is far more porous than Tehran would like to admit. If Mossad could smuggle hundreds of drones and build factories in the suburbs of Tehran, what else could they have smuggled? Second, the operation revealed a fundamental asymmetry in the conflict. Israel fights with intelligence and precision. Iran fights with mass and attrition. So far, the Israeli approach has proven more effective. Third, and perhaps most importantly, the operation set a precedent. Future conflicts will likely see more of this kind of covert logistics, not just against Iran, but against any adversary with a sophisticated military infrastructure, as one Israeli official told Reuters. This series of operations not only severely disrupted the Islamic Republic's missile infrastructure, but also under Mossad's deep penetration into the Iranian regime's security and military architecture. The question now is whether Iran can plug the holes, given the scale of what has already been exposed of factories, the smuggling networks. The turned agents. The answer is not encouraging for Tehran. A war fought with suitcases and shipping containers, a factory for enemy drones, built 3 stories high in the suburbs of Tehran. $100,000 smuggled past airport x-rays in a bag designed to be invisible. An Iranian general turned into a collaborator by a single phone call. This is the war you didn't see, and in many ways, it's the war that mattered most. Because before the first bomb ever fell on Iranian soil, the battle for Iran's missile arsenal had already been lost by the Iranians themselves. Mossad didn't just destroy weapons, they hollowed out a system. From the inside, using nothing more than patience, creativity, and a deep understanding of where Iran was vulnerable. The question that remains as the current war grinds into its 6th week is not whether Iran can rebuild its arsenal. The question is whether they can ever rebuild the trust that Mossad has so thoroughly destroyed. And right now, that answer looks like a very clear no. This is Geopolitics and Market. If you want to see the world not from the headlines, but from what's hidden beneath them, you know where to go. See you in the next episode.